Yeah, guys. This is the Merc here doing a quick talk back on District 9. It's been a while. Merc Files has been off the air for quite some time. Obviously, because the Mercers are traversing the plains all over the world, trying to make ends meet, trying to change things, as talkbackers will know. Obviously, the website www.talkbackworld.net, where real fans roam. If you're a real fan, go over there. You meet other like-minded fans to have debate and dialogue on all things fandom. Okay, let me just get straight to the point here. At hand, District 9. I haven't really been following this movie as deeply or as closely as a lot of talkbackers have. And there have been a number of reasons for that. One of them, obviously, been really busy, haven't been able to keep as close an eye on the news and fandom. And second of all, when I saw Peter Jackson's name attached to this project, contrary to what a lot of people feel, where they're like, oh, Peter Jackson, blah, 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 this and that. For me, after the experience of Lord of the Rings, which, I've talked a lot about, it's like great movie, fantastic trilogy and everything. But I had issues with the message involved and the way that a lot of things were depicted, namely the Urukai and the goblets and so on. But that all had to do with the source material, so I can't really argue too much because it was already there. Then, you had King Kong, and I had the same feelings. And after that, I was like, you know what? I'm not too hot on this guy. Like the fact that, you're doing Lord of the Rings, you're depicting these people this way, and then you're doing King Kong, which I don't see the reason why you're even making King Kong in today's modern era, based on where we're at right now with the race relations and so forth. Then I'm hearing that you're going to do Dam Busters. I'm like, Dam Busters is known for the sort of racial undertones and so forth involved, with it. And obviously it was written at a time where a lot of things were okay that aren't okay today. Political correctness for me is a touchy subject because, on one hand, I believe that people should be able to say what they want and what they feel. And movies should be made in whatever way you want to make them. And, if you've got an audience, you do. But on the flip side, I'm like, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. There are a lot of issues in the world today and a lot of sensitivities because of how stereotypes have caused wars and caused people to exact revenge and justice on those they feel that have wronged them. Now, people might question, what the hell does District 9 have to do with this? Well, I'm sitting there and I'm watching this movie, and first of all, I'll talk about the film in itself. That this film was actually an amazing movie. I thought it was a great film, point blank. I give this film as a movie 8 out of 10. This movie was a great movie. I thoroughly recommend sci-fi fans to go and watch this film, fantasy fans to go and watch this movie. Anybody who's into aliens and guns and special effects and whatever, it's fun, it's action, drama, everything. This movie has everything, And listen, I'm a harsh critic. Everybody knows the Merc knows I'm a harsh critic. The last time that I felt a movie was this good on an entertainment level was Cloverfield. Because Cloverfield wasn't really saying much per se, but I thought it was a very entertaining movie that I recommended people go and see. And this film is very similar to Cloverfield. Now, putting all of that stuff aside, there are a lot of issues that I had with District 9, which I feel that I should discuss. This movie, obviously, when you're watching it, is very loosely based. I mean, not so much based, but allusions to apartheid because it's set in Johannesburg. It's a South African director. We know Peter Jackson is from New Zealand and so forth, and and I don't know what the links are. Okay, I guess there are links if you're talking about European immigration or whatever you want to call it, or migration. But the fact of the matter is this, that it's got those allusions in there with the shanty towns and the not understanding this different race and calling them these names and cordoning them off and moving them from blah, blah, blah and so on. You know what I mean? So it was obvious. The only problem that I had with this is that you then start questioning that, are you drawing on this obviously very sensitive and touchy issue for the sake of entertainment to give more gravitas and weight to this film? Or are you doing it if you're actually trying to say something? And if you're actually trying to say something, then you've got to be very careful about what it is you're actually saying. You see what I mean? Because I'm watching this movie and I'm like, well, on the one hand, if you're just doing this for entertainment, that's not good, because this is a very serious issue, and just to throw it in there just for the sake, blah, blah, blah. So I just assume that you're going to try and use this movie to comment on the issues of what apartheid was and what racism and prejudice is, aka against these so-called prawns or these aliens in District 9, as, juxtaposed to black people in South Africa. Without mincing words, I mean, that's basically the issue. What I found interesting on the bat was that these shanty towns were inhabited by the aliens and blacks. That was interesting off the bat. The fact that it wasn't like you were going to these shanty towns and seeing white people mixing, living in poverty with them. It was the only other humans in there were black folks. Now, that might come down to economics. I'm not South African. It might be the fact that, most poor people who would end up in a situation like that if aliens did come to Earth and landed in Johannesburg would be black. Fine. That is, I'm not even going to argue with that. I do not know. That might be the situation based on economics. Then the issue will now come down to how these people are actually depicted when they're in there, how they are actually shown. See, the problem that I had with this thing is that, okay, this isn't set in 1989. This isn't set in 1990. This is 2009. This is supposed to be like a modern day movie where the president of South Africa is black and has been for like X number of years, where black people now are not in the same economic position that they were in during apartheid and so on and so forth. Now, my issue with this is that if that's the case and you're going to show a movie set in South Africa, there wasn't any redeeming or noble or heroic or intelligent beyond the basic level, not even minorities, because they're the majority black folks or brown people in this movie, and it's set in Africa. So, you'd be forgiven to think that this isn't even in Africa. Like, I'm watching this movie, I'm like, well, to be honest, all the MNU guys, the main guy, the main character, and so forth, is all hinged around a very white mentality, and a mentality that I've seen so many times in these sorts of movies, whereby these guys, you're the heroes, you're the ones who are dealing directly with the aliens, and then obviously the main character had his partner who was black, this guy, who just pops in and out, smiles, and leaves. And then we see him, later on in a jail outfit, an orange jumpsuit, saying that he was exposing the company. That was problematic to me. It was very problematic in the current climate of the world that we're living in today. Because see, the thing is, this is guys, there are a lot of guys who are going to come on this Merc file and talk about pulling race card. This isn't about race card. If you're intelligent, you have a brain in your cranium, and you're living in 2009, the South Africa of today is very mixed up. It's flowing. There's black people in as doctors, presidents, white people are doctors, presidents. Everybody's mixed together. And that was the point of destroying the apartheid regime. Now, it's just a movie. Of course it's just a movie. Well, it's just a movie that's made 100 million in like 2.5 weeks that everybody's going to see and everybody's telling other people to go and see. Kids are seeing it. Young people are seeing it. These things have an effect, and a continued effect, on the way that foreigners and the way that blacks and the way that people who are other than, if you want to call it the white majority of the Western world, are depicted as Africans. Because everybody knows that, you talk to most people, what's an African like in Africa? You've got the thing of the flies and the little kids and the hunger and the shanty towns and the slums and the treachery and the black magic and the lack of education and so on. All that stuff is the stereotype. You watch a movie like District 9 as a 10-year-old or 14 or 15-year-old, and all you've seen on CNN is all this nonsense, about what Africa is like, and you watch this movie, it's like the same thing.